When life gets unpredictable, preparation matters. In medicine, it's all about staying alert, ready for whatever comes through the door. On the road, it's no different. That's why Volvo designs vehicles to help anticipate risk, reduce harm, and protect lives. The Volvo XC90's advanced safety systems inspire confident decisions wherever the road takes you. The Volvo XC90, for life. Proud sponsor of the Pit Podcast. Learn more at volvocars.ca/safety.
How many of you have a video doorbell, right? How many of you have a camera installed in front of your home? Lots of companies involved in this one. Amazon owns Ring, so they make a whole line of these video doorbell products. Maybe you've got a Nest doorbell. You're like, haha, mine's not owned by some corporate behemoth, but maybe you didn't know that Nest is owned by Google. There's some other companies as well. Wise is one of them. UFi. I've got a camera from UFi, for crying out loud. Now, can these companies send the videos recorded by your doorbells to the police or others without your consent? This is a story, last week. The news broke, Amazon responding to a U.S. senator in some written questions that were sent by the U.S. senator. And Amazon said, yeah, Ring provided footage from clients' video doorbells 11 times this year alone, without a warrant, without asking. They just sent it over. Of course, that's in the U.S. But what is the situation here in Canada? Is that kind of thing legal? Can a company just send your videos from your property with your camera to the police? Let's find out about our legal rights in this country. Charles Côté is on the line, a criminal defense lawyer. Charles, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So first things first, initial reaction when you hear this out of the States, that Amazon's Ring is pretty cozy with police and law enforcement, and they've been doing this. What's your initial reaction?
Well, at first I was very surprised and possibly scared for personal information. And then I read the article, and it says that it was only in cases where imminent danger of death or serious physical injury could happen that they did supply the information without a search warrant, a valid search warrant, or the authorization of the owner of the footage. So that tempered a bit my scare of having a real infringement in our personal rights. But then I started thinking about Canadian law. Could that here? And I've seen cases. I was involved in cases where police did canvass an area to see if cameras were available, if they could see cameras, in order to request the footage in question from these places. But most of the time, what they did was to ask permission to the owners of these footage.
Uh-huh.
A lot of them were stores with their own CCTV camera system where they had their own recordings on site, and that helped investigations. But now, like this article raises, is the fact that more and more people are using personal cameras as doorbells, and it's quite interesting feature to be able to use them. I also read in the article that you could disable that capacity that Amazon would have to supply this footage to police without asking your permission if you activated the end-to-end
encryption.
But then I looked because, hey, like many other people, I do have a Ring system. So I went to see how I could activate this. And it's only through the website, by the way, not from your phone.
Uh-huh.
But it tells us that if you do activate this, then you'll lose a lot of features like event timeline, pre-roll, and snapshot capture.
Yeah. So who really wants to do that trade-off? You bought this camera, it's got all these features. Oh,
exactly.
you want to protect your privacy? All these features go away.
Exactly. It makes no sense. So then I started thinking, okay, what's the law in Canada? Well, in Canada, police would not be able to do that. The Supreme Court in 2017 rendered a decision regarding text messages, but in that decision, an important statement was made where an individual does not lose control over information simply because another individual possesses it or can access it, nor does the risk that a recipient could disclose an electronic conversation, in that case were text messages, negate a reasonable expectation of privacy in an electronic conversation. Therefore, even where an individual does not have exclusive control over his or her personal information, only shared control, he or she may yet reasonably expect that information to remain safe from state scrutiny. Therefore, they would need a search warrant duly authorized by a judge in order to be able to access your recordings stored at Amazon.
Well, so that's that's a really interesting answer there to the question about how does this affect Canadians who've got these video doorbells. We're with Charles Côté, a criminal defense lawyer, talking about video doorbells, the footage they take, and how if police can access that footage with the story coming out of the U.S. So a good note there, Charles, about what the law says here in Canada. Now, I've got a text message from a listener, okay? And I think maybe a lot of listeners are going to be in the same boat. So here's what one listener writes us as we discuss. Letting Amazon use the video from our Ring doorbell, I have no problem with that. If the footage can help in any way, go ahead. Hopefully, it will cut down on crime. So that's what one listener says. But to me, Charles, like in that case, Amazon or whoever it is, whatever the company is, should just actually contact the homeowner. Send them a request, send them an email, send them a text message saying, hey, this is Amazon. Please call us. We'd like to use the footage and get approval. That seems to me like the way, police forces should go about this kind of thing.
Well, it should not even be the work of Amazon. It should be the police work. If the police is seeking information, knock on the door and ask. We see that you have a Ring camera. Here's a form. You could, if you could sign that for us, we would like to have access to a specific period in time of your camera and stored information. Mm-hmm. Now, this is very important because if you say, oh, you can access at large, if that listener says, okay, it's good for me and probably for most of the people, but what if the person doesn't want to share information with police at random, but only, okay, I'll allow that specific period of time. But maybe another day, well, his mistress was leaving the house.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't want to have this disclosed. Or maybe he received delivery of something he doesn't want people to find out about. And that could become troublesome because history tells us if you give 1 inch to the police, they'll take a foot.
Yes.
And even more.
Yeah, and so to wrap up here, Charles, I wanted to get to that, right? Because you're a criminal defense lawyer, right? So when you see this, and let's say you had to represent someone, is like for the criminal justice system, is there a worry that evidence could be thrown out if if the right steps weren't followed in order to get this kind of footage? Absolutely,
and that's what police have to keep in mind. If they don't follow the rules of the law, it is more likely that the evidence that they will gather that could potentially help them solve the crime be rejected in court because they didn't follow the proper steps. So why don't start properly at the beginning, and then we won't have cases thrown out because police wanted to cut corners.
Charles Côté, criminal defense lawyer. Really fascinating discussion. Thanks for joining us this morning.
It was my pleasure. Have a great day.